EXT Moscow streets, night, November 1941. The city is a monster of shadows and frozen breath. Snow falls not as gentle flakes, but as gritty ash mixed with ice, staining the darkness. The air vibrates with a deep, ominous hum. The distant German artillery, a constant reminder that the front line is now the city's outskirts. Searchlight fingers claw at the low clouds, occasionally illuminating the skeleton of a shattered building. People are not citizens here. They are survivors, moving in hurried, hunched silhouettes against the walls, their eyes wide and vacant in the gloom. Int. Lubyanka Prison, corridor, night. The corridor is a tomb of greenish paint and weak, buzzing bulbs. The air smells of old sweat, mildew, and a sharp, metallic scent that lingers in the back of the throat. Two guards march a prisoner, Ivan Volkov, forward. He is in his late 40s. His posture is erect, defiant, but his expensive woolen coat is torn at the shoulder, and a dark bruise blooms on his cheekbone. He moves with an unnatural calm, a glacial pace that irritates the guards. They shove him into a small, stark holding cell, more a cupboard with a bench. The iron door slams, the sound final and deafening. Through a small, barred window in the door, Ivan watches the corridor. He sees another prisoner being processed, an elderly man in the tattered remains of a professor's frock coat. The man is weeping silently, his shoulders shaking. An officer with a clipboard reads a name without looking up, then nods. Two guards seize the old man, not with violence, but with a brutal procedural efficiency. They drag him towards a heavy, reinforced door at the end of the corridor. The professor finds his voice, a choked whisper pleading in polished, pre-revolutionary Russian about his work, his contributions. The door opens. From within spills a brief, shocking cacophony. A shouted command, a scuffle, and then a single, flat, unmistakable POW of a pistol shot, muffled by the room's acoustics, but horrifyingly clear in its intent. Silence floods back, heavier than before. The guards emerge a moment later, their faces bored. One lights a cigarette. The officer makes a check mark on his clipboard. Ivan Volkov does not look away. His jaw tightens, the only movement on his stone-carved face. He understands now viscerally what the phrase socially dangerous element means. It is not an accusation. It is a death sentence, carried out with the impersonal finality of a butcher stamping meat. Int. Interrogation room. Night. The room is a cold, concrete box. A single blinding bulb hangs directly over a simple wooden chair, casting everything else in deep shadow. Ivan is forced into the chair. He blinks against the light, his eyes adjusting to reveal the man sitting across from him. Colonel Makarov is not what Ivan expected. He is not a thug. He is in his late 30s with a strong, thoughtful face and eyes that miss nothing. He wears a simple NKVD uniform, impeccably neat. On the scarred metal desk between them lies a single, pristine file folder. Next to it, placed with deliberate care, is an old, silver-framed photograph. It shows a group of laughing young people on a sun-drenched terrace. Women in white lace, men in brilliant white summer uniforms. Ivan, 2 decades younger, handsome and careless, smiles from the center. Makarov does not speak at first. He lets the silence stretch, lets Ivan look at the ghost of his own past. The only sound is the faint, rhythmic thud of the artillery, a grim counterpoint to the frozen gaiety in the photograph. Finally, Makarov opens the file. He does not read from it. He speaks softly, conversationally, as if recalling shared memories. He details Ivan's life, not as a list of crimes, but as a biography of a vanished world. The estate in Crimea, the horses, the winters in St. Petersburg, the French governess, the commission in the Tsar's Guard purchased by his father, the flight in 1919, the bitter years of exile in Paris and Prague, moving through drawing rooms that grew shabbier with each passing year, the foolish, nostalgic return to Moscow in 1938, a desperate attempt to recover a hidden family icon, the inevitable arrest. Makarov's voice is calm, almost respectful. He is not interrogating. He is conducting an autopsy on a class, and Ivan is the specimen on the slab. Then the tone shifts. Makarov slides 2 new photographs from the folder. They are modern, grainy, taken with a long lens. One shows a beautiful, elegant woman in a fox fur coat descending the steps of the Hotel Adlon in Berlin. She is smiling at a handsome man in a German major's uniform. His cousin, Elizabeth, whom he taught to ride a horse at their family estate a lifetime ago. The second photo is of a serious young man in spectacles, standing in front of a complex lathe in a well-lit workshop. A Swiss factory, his nephew Alexei, the boy who used to follow him around begging for stories about the war. Makarov explains. The Reich, in its arrogance, believes the old European aristocracy are its natural allies. They are a closed circle, speaking a language of bloodlines and manners that is utterly alien to the Soviet man. A circle that would never admit a peasant's son or a factory worker's daughter. But it would admit Prince Ivan Volkov. It would welcome his nephew, the engineer. It would trust his cousin, the socialite. He presents the choice. It is not a choice between life and death. It is a choice between 2 kinds of death. The first is the death Ivan just witnessed down the hall. Quick, anonymous, meaningless. A bullet in a basement, a body in a mass grave, his name erased. The final victory of the revolution over the last remnant of his world. The second is slower, more complex, and far more dangerous. He would cease to be Ivan Volkov. He would become a weapon, a phantom. He would use every memory, every connection, every ounce of charm and breeding he possesses to infiltrate that glittering, rotten world of the enemy. He would have to lie to the people he once loved. He would have to betray the last vestiges of his own caste. He would live in constant fear, and he would almost certainly die in some foreign city at the hands of the Gestapo. But that death, Makarov concludes, his voice dropping to a whisper, would have meaning. It would be a soldier's death. It would be an act of vengeance, not just for the motherland that despises him, but for the Russia he still carries inside, the Russia of culture, of memory, of that sun-drenched terrace now forever lost. He places a blank sheet of paper and a fountain pen on the desk. The pen is good quality, pre-war German. Ivan looks from the photograph of his past to the photographs of his living family, to the blank page that represents his future. He hears the echo of the single gunshot from the corridor. He feels the vibration of the German shells through the floor. A cold, clear fury settles in his chest. A fury at the Germans for destroying Europe, at the Bolsheviks for destroying his Russia, and at history for offering him only this terrible poisoned choice. His hand, when he reaches for the pen, is steady. He signs his name with the flowing, elegant script taught to him by a French tutor. The signature is a masterpiece of a dead civilization. Makarov takes the paper. He does not smile. He gives a single, slight nod. He speaks the name of the new network, the Black Cat, an omen of bad luck, a creature that moves unseen in the shadows, leaving only unease in its wake. He stands and leaves without another word. The door closes. Even Volkov remains alone in the pool of harsh light. The ghost has made his pact. He is no longer a relic. He is an agent. The war outside the walls has just become deeply, terrifyingly personal. The first move in a silent, treacherous game has been made, and the board is the entire continent of Europe. EXT. Volga countryside. Day, late winter, 1942. The train journey was a 5-day passage through a wounded nation. Now, a closed truck with a frozen canvas cover rattles down a remote forest road, far from any front. The world outside is a monochrome expanse of snow and stark black firs under a leaden sky. There are no signs of war here, only a deep, isolating silence. The truck turns off the road onto an unmarked track, eventually passing through guarded gates set in a high wooden fence topped with barbed wire. No insignia, no unit markings, a place that does not exist. Int. The dacha, main hall, day. The building is a relic of another era, a sprawling, ornate wooden dacha built by a wealthy merchant before the revolution. Its grandeur is faded but intact. Carved wooden panels, a massive stone fireplace now cold, high ceilings with water-stained frescoes of nymphs. It smells of pine logs, old polish, and the sharp, clean scent of snow tracked in on boots. This is not a military barracks. It is a stage being prepared for a performance of unimaginable consequence. Ivan Volkov stands in the center of the grand hall, still in his travel-stained clothes. He is not alone. 2 others stand with him, brought from different prisons, different cells, all sharing the same ghostly pallor. To his right is Sofia Orlova, in her early 40s. Once Countess Sofia Orlova Voronzova. Even in drab prison wool, her bearing is regal, her sharp green eyes missing nothing. Her beauty is not soft. It is architectural, composed of high cheekbones and a severe, elegant mouth. She looks at Ivan with a flicker of recognition, then cool appraisal. To his left is Lev Karlov, younger, late 20s. He is the son of a prominent liberal aristocrat and an engineer. His hands, currently clenched at his sides, are stained with ink and faint chemical burns, not calluses. His intelligence is a restless, almost physical energy. He avoids eye contact, staring at the parquet floor, as if studying its flawed geometry. They are joined by their handler, a man introduced only as Vadim. He is a former university lecturer in European etiquette, a small, precise man with nervous hands and an encyclopedic memory. He does not look like an NKVD officer. He is their director. Vadim explains their new reality. They will not learn to assemble explosives or decipher codes. Not yet. They will unlearn survival and relearn how to live. They will become their legends. For the next weeks, this dacha is not in Russia. It is a bubble suspended in time and space, a fragment of occupied Europe. Their training begins not with a weapon, but with a wardrobe. Int. The dacha, bedroom. Day. Ivan's assigned room is sparse but clean. On the narrow bed lies not a uniform, but a set of clothing. A fine wool suit of English cut, a silk tie, a pair of handmade Italian shoes, slightly worn, a silver cigarette case, a lighter, a wristwatch with a slender leather strap. These are not props, they are artifacts. He picks up the suit jacket. The lining is from a Berlin tailor extinct since 1935. The scent of a faint, unfamiliar cologne lingers on the fabric. This is the skin of a dead man he must resurrect. Inti. The dacha. Dining room. Night. The first supper is a surreal ordeal. The table is set with yellowed pre-revolutionary china and real silver, all scavenged from seized estates. The food is simple: black bread, thin soup, boiled potatoes. but it is served with a chilling formality by a silent attendant. Vadim presides. He does not discuss politics or war. He discusses the 1937 vintage of Bordeaux, and which chateaux were still producing. He talks about the correct way to address a Belgian baroness versus an Italian contessa. He drills them on the gossip columns of pre-war Parisian newspapers, who was having an affair with whom, which artists were in vogue, which plays had flopped. Sophia is a natural. She holds her spoon as if it were made of crystal. Her French is the Parisian of the Faubourg Saint-Germain, flawless and slightly bored. She corrects Lev's pronunciation of a Viennese calf with a quiet, devastating precision that makes his ears turn red. Lev struggles. His knowledge is theoretical, from books and blueprints. His hands, used to gripping tools, fumble with the array of cutlery. He retreats into sullen silence. Ivan watches, listens, absorbs. He feels the old reflexes stirring, muscles of social etiquette long atrophied. It is not comforting. It is like exhuming a corpse and finding it still warm. In tea. The dacha. Library. Day. The library is the heart of their transformation. It contains no Soviet literature. Its shelves hold pre-war European magazines, society almanacs, train timetables for lines now destroyed, technical journals from Swiss manufacturers, stacks of photographs of European cities, street signs, caf, interiors, tram stops. One morning, Vadim presents them with a test. He pins a large, detailed photograph of a Parisian brasserie interior to the wall. Vadim, V.O. Describe the clientele, not their clothes. Tell me their stories. From the corner of your eye, in 3 seconds. Sofia speaks first, her voice flat. The man by the window is a minor functionary from the Ministry of Colonies, meeting his mistress. He is nervously checking his watch because his wife believes he is at a committee meeting. The woman at the bar is a journalist for a right-wing newspaper, drinking alone because her editor just rejected her piece for being too soft. Ivan adds detail. The cut of the functionary's suit is slightly outdated, suggesting financial troubles or a lack of care. The ash length in his tray indicates he has been agitated, waiting for over 20 minutes. Lev stares, overwhelmed by the human puzzle. He mutters about the type of wood used for the bar counter. Vadim silences him with a look. This is their new warfare: perception, implication, the silent language of class and context. EXT. The dacha grounds. Twilight. Tension in the house is a living thing. The forced intimacy, the pressure to become a stranger to oneself, breeds sharp, hidden conflicts. Ivan finds Sofia smoking on the frozen terrace, wrapped in a heavy coat. The facade of the cool countess is gone. Her face is drawn, her eyes hold a bleak fury. She speaks of her daughter, a teenager left behind in a state orphanage when Sofia was arrested. The unspoken deal, her cooperation for her daughter's safety. Her motivation is not ideology, but a desperate maternal blackmail. Lev, in contrast, is a volatile mixture of guilt and zeal. He confesses to Ivan in the dark of their shared bathroom that he believed in the revolution's promise once, that he denounced his own father. His father died in a camp. Lev's desire to fight the Nazis is now a frantic, self-destructive need for atonement, to make his father's death and his own betrayal mean something. He is a true believer in a cause that views him as expendable genetic waste. The psychological fracture is visible, a crack in his intense focus. Ivan shares nothing of his own deal. He becomes the group's anchor, the reluctant leader. He mediates. He understands that their survival will depend not on their individual skills, but on their ability to function as a single, poisoned organism. In T. The dacha, basement room, night. The final stage of their preparation is the most chilling. Vadim leads them to a sealed basement room. This is where the theater ends and the bloody mechanics begin. On a table under a bright lamp lies a disassembled German Walther P-38 pistol. Next to it, a Soviet TT-33. And a sleek, silent, well-wrought assassin's pistol. Vadim does not teach them to shoot. He teaches them to kill. Efficiently, quietly, in close quarters. He demonstrates the exact pressure needed to sever a carotid artery with a knife from behind. The specific angle to drive a needle into the base of the skull through the soft palate. How to use a garrote without making a sound. He makes them practice on sandbags, then on suspended pig carcasses brought from a local farm. The room grows cold, the air thick with the smell of raw meat and gun oil. Sophia's hands, so graceful with a teacup, are steady and methodical. She performs the procedures with a detached, clinical precision that is more frightening than any display of emotion. Lev is violently sick after his first attempt with the knife. He retches in the corner, tears of shame and rage in his eyes. Ivan helps him up, wordlessly. There is no judgment, only the shared understanding that a line has been crossed. The ghosts are being armed. That night, Ivan lies awake in his room. He can still smell the blood on his hands, though he washed them thoroughly. He stares at the fine suit hanging on the door. The two worlds, the one of silk lining and whispered gossip, and the one of cold steel and butchery, have violently collided inside him. He is no longer just pretending to be a ghost. He is becoming one, a polished, lethal phantom, ready to be unleashed upon the continent that created him. The legend is complete. The weapon is forged, and it is infinitely more dangerous than its creators intended. EXT. Paris Street. Day. Spring 1942. Paris in the spring of 1942 is a city of cruel, breathtaking beauty. The chestnut trees along the Seine are in full, vibrant bloom, a riot of green and white against the stone-gray sky. The air is soft, carrying the scent of wet earth and baking bread from the few patisseries still open. But the beauty is a veneer, a fragile stage set. The true colors of the city are the field gray of Wehrmacht uniforms, the stark black and silver of the SS, the sickly yellow stars sewn onto the coats of those hurrying with eyes downcast. German staff cars purr arrogantly down the wide boulevards, their tires hissing on the damp cobblestones. It is a portrait of life, but the frame is made of barbed wire. A sleek, black Citroën, traction avant, glides to a stop on the Avenue Foch. The door opens. A man steps out. He is Prince Ivan Volkov, but that man is buried. This is Herr Friedrich Weiss, a Swiss national of discreet means and neutral sympathies, dealing in rare books and art valuation for a Zurich consortium. His suit is impeccably cut, dark gray wool. His hat is worn at just the right angle. He carries a cane of polished Malacca wood, an accessory, not a necessity. His face is a mask of polite, detached interest as he surveys the grand facade of the apartment building. He pays the driver with exact change, his French flawless but tinged with the crisp, clean accent of German-speaking Switzerland. He enters the building. The concierge, a middle-aged woman with eyes like chips of flint, watches him. He offers a slight, correct smile, names the tenant he is visiting, a known collaborator in the French Ministry of Information. The name is a key. The concierge's suspicion melts into obsequiousness. The performance has passed its first critical test. Inti. Luxury apartment, Paris. Day. The apartment is a museum of collaborationist taste. Gilt furniture, heavy drapes, a pervasive smell of expensive coffee and Gauloise's cigarettes. The meeting is a slow, elaborate dance. Ivan, as vice, discusses the market for Flemish primitives with a bored, corpulent French official. The conversation is a web of double entendres and veiled references. Information about art shipments masks information about supply convoys. A discussion of a painter's provenance hints at the travel plans of a German general. Ivan's mind operates on two levels. On the surface, he is the urbane connoisseur, swirling brandy in a snifter. Beneath, he is a predator, listening for the specific cadence of a phrase, the slight stress on a particular word, the prearranged signals from his contact, a nervous, chain-smoking secretary who moves in and out of the room. The data is passed not on paper, but embedded in casual gossip. A perfect, bloodless transaction. EXT. Jardin des Tuileries. Day. The next link in the chain. Lev Karlov is now Hans Müller, a junior representative of a Swiss engineering firm. He meets his contact on a park bench overlooking the Grand Pond. The contact is a French engineer who works for the Todt organization, the Nazi construction agency building the Atlantic Wall. Lev's hands, once clumsy with silverware, are now steady as he sketches meaningless diagrams in a notepad. The Frenchman, speaking in a low, rapid monotone, describes stress tolerances of concrete mixtures, thickness specifications for bunker walls in the Calais sector. The information is gold. Lev's face is a study in concentrated technical interest. Inside, his heart hammers against his ribs. He is delivering the coordinates for future graves. Suddenly, a patrol of 2 German Feldgendarmerie, the military police, strolls past. Their boots crunch on the gravel. They slow. They look at the 2 men on the bench. Time stretches, becomes elastic. Lev feels a drop of cold sweat trace a path down his spine. He does not look up. He points to his diagram, asks a technical question about rebar density in German. The Frenchman, understanding, responds in broken German. The police lose interest, move on. The danger passes, leaving a vacuum of sheer, adrenalized relief. The transmission is completed. The ghost has remained invisible. Int. Kaf. De la Paix. Knight Sofia Orlova is the masterpiece of the trio. She is now Contessa Sofia de Lucchesi, a widow of vague Italian-Argentinian heritage, trapped in Paris by the war, nursing a fragile health and a bottomless fortune. She holds court at a corner table in the still opulent Kaf, a beacon of fading glamour. Her circle is a poisonous bouquet of German officers, Vichy officials, and wealthy neutrals. She listens, her laughter like the chime of fine crystal, her eyes reflecting admiration for the boasts of a Luftwaffe major. He is drunk on wine and his own importance, complaining about the delays in converting a coastal railway line in Normandy for heavy armament transport. He mentions a specific bridge near Caen that is too weak, the engineer in charge, a fool. The name and location are seared into Sofia's memory. She pats his hand with feigned sympathy, her touch making him preen. This is their operation. A silent, precise machine. Ivan gathers strategic intent from the collaborationist elite. Lev harvests tactical blueprints from the technical cadre. Sofia plucks operational secrets from the arrogant hearts of the conquerors. The black cat is weaving a net of intelligence in the very drawing rooms and offices of the enemy. EXT. Back alley, Montmartre, rainy night. The clean, bloodless phase ends here. It is a simple courier job. Ivan must retrieve a roll of microfilm from a dead drop, a specific crevice in a crumbling wall near the soccer. See Ur. The rain falls in a cold, persistent drizzle, turning the alley into a river of shadows and reflected neon from a distant brasserie. He retrieves the film. The procedure is perfect. He turns to leave. A figure steps from a doorway, blocking his exit. Not a soldier. A man in a long, dark coat and a fedora. A Gestapo plainclothes agent. His face is pale, professional, his eyes empty. He doesn't shout. He simply says, in flat, accented French, to identify himself. Ivan's legend is perfect. His papers are flawless. But the agent is not checking papers. He is operating on instinct, on the scent of prey. He demands to see what Ivan retrieved from the wall. In that frozen second, Ivan calculates. Talking will lead to arrest, interrogation. The microfilm is undeniable proof. The network will collapse. Sofia, Lev, all of them. There is no conscious decision. There is only the programming from the dacha's bloody basement. As the agent takes a step forward, hand moving towards his own coat, Ivan moves. He drops the cane. His left hand shoots out, not to strike, but to grip the agent's right wrist, pinning the potential draw of a weapon. Simultaneously, his right hand, holding the heavy roll of microfilm sealed in lead, drives upward with the full, piston-like force of his shoulder. It is not a punch. It is a targeted blow. The hard cylinder connects with the base of the agent's jaw, just below the ear. There is a sickening, wet crack, audible even over the patter of rain. The agent's eyes bulge, not with pain, but with profound, neurological shock. His body goes rigid, then limp. Ivan catches him, lowering the collapsing weight to the wet cobblestones with a terrible gentleness. The man's hat rolls away. He twitches once, a grotesque jerk, and then is still. A trickle of dark blood mixes with the rainwater from his ear. Ivan stands over the body, breathing hard, vapor pluming in the cold air. He looks at his hands. One still grips the dead man's wrist. The other holds the microfilm, now a murder weapon. The polished veneer of Friedrich Weiss is gone, stripped away. He sees the blood on the cobblestones, black in the dim light. This is the reality. This is the work. He quickly searches the body, finds a Gestapo warrant disc, a pistol. He takes the disc, leaves the gun. He drags the body into the deeper shadow of the doorway, arranges it to look like a drunk. It is a pathetic, transparent ruse that will buy hours, maybe only minutes. He walks away, his pace steady, unhurried. The cane is left behind. The ghost has left a tangible trace. The perfect, invisible operation now has a corpse in a Paris alley. The first crack in the legend has appeared, not from outside pressure, but from the brutal, internal necessity of survival. The shadow has been forced to kill to preserve the darkness. And Prince Ivan Volkov understands with absolute clarity that there is no going back to being just a ghost. He has become something else entirely. A monster in a bespoke suit, walking back into the glittering, poisoned light of occupied Paris. XT, Berlin, and Halterbahnhof Station. Day. Summer, 1942. Berlin is a different beast from Paris. There is no veneer of occupied melancholy here, only the stark, arrogant confidence of the victor. The city hums with a purposeful, militarized energy. Red banners with black swastikas hang from monumental buildings like bolts of frozen blood. The streets are clean, the traffic orderly. The faces of the people a complex tapestry of pride, fear, and blank submission. The air smells of coal smoke, synthetic fuel, and the faint, sweet undertone of ersatz coffee. This is the heart of the Reich, and its pulse is a steady, threatening drumbeat. The black cat enters the lion's den, not through shadowy back channels, but through the front gate, with tickets stamped and papers in perfect order. Ivan Volkov is no longer the Swiss bookseller. He is now Baron Friedrich von Reichenbach, a Silesian aristocrat, with familial ties to Baltic German nobility, repatriated to the fatherland and offering his services as a cultural liaison to the occupied Eastern territories, a cover that allows for travel, curiosity, and access to certain administrative circles. The legend is deeper, more dangerous, woven with threads of actual verifiable lineage, painstakingly distorted by Moscow's forgers. Int. Abwehr headquarters. Office. Day. Their principal contact within the enemy apparatus is a man named Oberstleutnant Erich von Helldorf. He is a career officer of the Abwehr, German military intelligence, and a paradox. A scion of an old Prussian Junker family, he possesses a cold, patrician elegance and a mind like a razor. His office is decorated not with Nazi paraphernalia, but with portraits of Frederick the Great and shelves of philosophy. He is also secretly a member of the Schwarze Kapelle, the clandestine circle of military officers opposed to Hitler. To von Helldorf, the Black Cat are not Soviet agents, but aristocratic Russian patriots, allies of convenience in a plot to decapitate the Nazi regime from within. It is a breathtakingly dangerous misunderstanding, a high-wire act where a single misstep in ideology or manner could mean a firing squad for treason, not espionage. The meeting is a ballet of unspoken codes. Ivan, as von Reichenbach, speaks of the cultural salvage of Russian art, a thinly veiled metaphor for dismantling the Nazi administration. Von Helldorf discusses the health of the state and surgical necessities. Information flows in this shadow language, the disposition of a specific SS division loyal to Himmler, the schedule for a high-level conference at the Wolf's Lair. Ivan transmits requests for archival access that are, in reality, questions about troop movements near Stalingrad. The trust is absolute and therefore infinitely fragile. EXT. Berlin. Opera House. Night. The network's work expands in this treacherous soil. Sofia, now a distant cousin from a Romanian branch of the family, moves through the glittering, tense world of Berlin's elite soirees. Her target is the sprawling, gossip-filled bureaucracy of the Air Ministry. Lev, as a junior technical attaché, with the organization taut, burrows into the labyrinth of Albert Speer's armaments ministry, his engineering mind mapping not structures, but the fragile nodes of production and logistics. They are ghosts among ghosts, but in Berlin, the air is thick with phantoms, and not all of them are friendly. INT. Restaurant Horker. Night. It is at a reception for high-ranking officers and influential civilians that Ivan first encounters him. The man is standing alone by a marble column, observing the room with the detached amusement of a cat at a mouse hole. He is in his late 30s, dressed in a perfectly tailored civilian suit that does nothing to hide his athletic build. His hair is blonde, swept back, his features sharp and intelligent. This is Major Konrad Vogler of the Reichssicherheitshauptamt, the RSHA, the Central Security Office of the SS, encompassing the Gestapo, and SD. Vogler does not approach with suspicion. He approaches with curiosity. He introduces himself, not with his rank, but with his full name, Konrad Vogler, hinting at a minor but ancient Bavarian nobility. His German is cultured, his French impeccable, his knowledge of Russian art and history casually profound. He engages Ivan in a discussion about the iconography of Rublev, a test masked as conversation. Ivan responds in kind, the two men circling each other like master fencers in a preliminary bout. Vogler makes it clear he knows of Baron von Reichenbach. He has checked the lineage, found it intriguingly obscure in just the right places. He does not accuse, he compliments. He remarks on the Baron's remarkable recovery of his fortunes after so many years abroad. He calls it resilience. This is not the blunt force of the Gestapo thug in the Paris alley. This is the insidious, intellectual pressure of a man who hunts not for spies, but for contradictions of the soul. He suspects Ivan not of being a Soviet agent, but of being an impostor, a decadent aristocrat playing his own game, a traitor to the Nazi cause out of sheer amoral self-interest. To Vogler, that is a far more interesting and more dangerous quarry. Int. Safe house apartment, Kreutzberg. Night. The team's debriefings are now infected with a new virus. Paranoia. Lev reports a strange, lingering interest from a security officer at the ministry, who asked overly technical questions about Swiss precision instruments. Sofia describes a feeling of being watched at the opera. A man in the shadows of a loge who seemed to follow her movements with a binoculared gaze. And Ivan describes Vogler. The realization is a cold knife in their guts. They are not just hiding from the state. They are being personally hunted by a predator of their own class, who speaks their language, understands their psychology. The rules have changed. They can no longer simply mimic. They must become their legends at a depth that can withstand an archaeologist of the human soul, like Vogler. EXT. Tiergarten. Dave Vogler engineers a chance encounter. He invites Ivan for a walk. It is a beautiful summer day. Children play by the pond. The setting is bucolic, the conversation lethal. Vogler speaks obliquely, but clearly. He talks of the coming winter, of how some trees, though seemingly strong, have rotten cores and will not survive the frost. He speaks of the new Europe being built, and how there is, perhaps, still a place in it for men of proper breeding and realistic outlook, men who understand that ideologies are fleeting, but blood and power are eternal. He is not offering a trap. He is offering an alliance. He is suggesting that Ivan, and those like him, might find a more profitable and certainly safer future by realigning their loyalties to the pragmatic, strong side. To men like Vogler, within the SS who see beyond the crude dogma of the party. It is a mirror image of Makarov's offer in the Lubyanka basement. A choice between two deaths. But this one is seductive. It offers survival, privilege, a return to a natural order, albeit under a swastika. Ivan listens, his face a polite mask, while inside a cold fury battles with a terrifying flicker of temptation. The temptation is not to betray the USSR, but to save himself, to step out of the ghostly half-life and into solid, powerful reality. He deflects with a nobleman's weary cynicism, suggesting all causes are ultimately lost, and a wise man simply seeks a comfortable shelter from the storm. Vogler smiles, a thin, knowing curve of the lips. He is not convinced. He is intrigued. The dance has begun in earnest. Int. Abwehr office, night. Rain. Later, in the sanctum of the conspirator von Helldorf, the tension reaches a breaking point. Von Helldorf has received a warning from a source in the RSHA. A file is being quietly opened. A special interest is being taken in the Baltic repatriates. The noose, woven from silk rather than rope, is tightening. The Black Cat must produce a decisive result to justify their presence, to cement von Helldorf's protection, and to divert Vogler's scrutiny. The task is monumental. Identify and locate a deep-cover Soviet radio operator in Berlin who is feeding strategic misinformation to the Abwehr. A phantom so elusive, the Gestapo calls him der Geist, the ghost. They must find and sacrifice one of their own side to prove their value to the Germans. The moral abyss yawns wide before them. Ivan accepts the task. To refuse would mean instant exposure. As he leaves the Abwehr building, the rain falling on Berlin feels like needles. He looks up at the monolithic buildings around him. Somewhere in this city of enemies, a fellow Soviet agent is transmitting vital lies. And Ivan Volkov must now lead the hunt for him, with a Gestapo major who understands him better than his own comrades, walking silently beside him in the dark, waiting for him to make a mistake, or to finally reveal his true colors. The shadow war has become a tango with the devil, and the music is growing faster, more frantic, with every passing beat. EXT. Prague. Charles Bridge. Dawn. Autumn. 1942. Prague is a city of whispers and stone. The Gothic spires claw at a low, bruised sky, and the Vltava River flows dark and silent beneath the ancient bridge. The occupation here feels different from Berlin's arrogance or Paris's wounded glamour. It is a heavy, suffocating blanket of resignation. The streets are eerily quiet, the few pedestrians moving with a hushed, hurried gait, their collars turned up against the damp chill and the eyes of the Protectorate police. The air smells of wet leaves, coal dust, and fear. The black cat has been dispatched here under a cloud of existential threat. The order from Moscow Center is terse, a direct response to the pressure from Berlin. They must secure a tangible, high-value victory to maintain their credibility with von Helldorf and distract Major Vogler. The target is not a document or a troop movement, but a man, Baron Oskar von Halbach, a senior administrator in the Reich Protectorate of Bohemia and Moravia, instrumental in coordinating rail shipments of raw materials and forced labor to the German war machine. His elimination would be a significant blow, a statement. But the method of approach is the true poison. Ian T. Prague Safe House. Day. The safe house is a cramped, shabby-genteel apartment in the Mall, Strana district, with a view of the castle looming oppressively overhead. The atmosphere inside is thick with a new, corrosive tension. They have pored over files, surveillance photographs, schedules. And in a grainy image of the Baron and his wife attending a charity concert, Sofia Orlova's blood has turned to ice. The Baroness, elegant and smiling in the photograph, is Elisaveta von Halbach, born Princess Elisaveta Lisa Volkova, Ivan's younger sister. The revelation hits the room like a physical blow. Lev stares, his mind struggling to compute the personal dimension of the horror. Ivan says nothing for a long minute. He simply looks at the face of the sister he has not seen since the chaos of their exile over 20 years ago. She was a child then, all laughter and ringlets. Now she is a poised woman, her arm linked with that of a high-ranking Nazi. The life she has built in the world that survived their own. Moscow's orders are unambiguous and ruthless. Option A. Recruit her. Exploit her marital access to plant listening devices, steal documents, or ultimately facilitate her husband's assassination. Option B. If recruitment is impossible, eliminate the Baron and extract her forcibly, a widow in shock, to be used as a pawn or discarded. There is no option C for family sentiment. EXT. St. Vitus Cathedral. Day Ivan engineers the reunion. He knows her habits, the echoes of their shared childhood. He positions himself in the back of the cathedral, a shadow among the soaring pillars, as she attends a somber midday service for the strength of German arms. He watches her pray, her profile achingly familiar. When she rises and walks towards the exit, he steps into her path. The recognition is not instantaneous. Then it is. Her eyes, the same shade as his, widen. The color drains from her face. For a second, pure, unguarded joy flashes there, the ghost of the little sister. It is immediately swallowed by a tsunami of terror, confusion, and dawning horror. She knows what he is, or at least what he must be. A Soviet citizen, a man with his past, appearing here, now, in the heart of the Protectorate. He is death walking toward her. They speak in hushed, frantic Russian near a side chapel. Her words are a desperate torrent. She speaks of survival, of the impossible choices one makes to stay alive, to protect a sliver of normalcy. She married Oscar not for love of the regime, but for safety, for stability, after the rootless nightmare of exile. He is not a monster, she insists. He is an administrator, a man who believes he is bringing order. She has a son, their nephew, a quiet boy of 8, who plays the piano. She begs. She does not ask about his life. The mere fact of his existence is a threat to hers. Ivan sees it all, the gilded cage she inhabits, the willing blindness, the desperate maternal love for her child that mirrors Sophia's own torment. He presents the center's offer not as a patriotic duty, but as the only possible lifeline. Help us, and you and your son may have a future after the war. Refuse, and the war will come to your doorstep, and it will be ugly. It is Makarov's offer, refined and poisoned by brotherly love. She refuses, not with defiance, but with a shattered, tearless resolve. She will not betray the fragile sanctuary she has built. She pleads with him to disappear, to never contact her again. She tells him their brotherhood died with their Russia. N.T. Baron von Halbach's study. Night. The operation pivots to Option B. Lev, using his engineering cover, has gained access to the Baron's office under the pretext of assessing the building's electrical grid for security upgrades. His task is to plant a sophisticated delayed action explosive device inside a desk lamp, a workplace accident that will decapitate the Protectorate's logistics apparatus and be blamed on Czech partisans. The study is a monument to Teutonic efficiency. Dark wood, a large map of the Reich's supply lines, a portrait of Heydrich. Lev's hands, steady in a Parisian park, now tremble as he works. He sees a framed photograph on the desk, Elisaveta, the Baron, and their son, smiling in a sun-drenched garden. The boy has Ivan's eyes. Lev's mind floods with the image of his own father, with his own betrayal. He is not killing a Nazi bureaucrat. He is murdering a family, making an orphan of his comrade's nephew. The technical act is simple. The human act is impossible. For a full minute he is paralyzed, the device cold and heavy in his hand. XT. Prague Street. Night. Rain. Ivan is on surveillance, watching the Baron's villa from a blacked-out doorway. His role is to confirm the target's arrival home and signal Lev. He sees a car pull up. The Baron exits, but he is not alone. Elisaveta is with him, and holding her hand, bundled in a small coat against the drizzle, is the boy. They laugh at something, a private family moment under the street lamp's halo. The Baron bends down to pick up his son, carrying him towards the door. In that instant, Ivan's professional detachment disintegrates. He is not seeing a target and a collaborator. He is seeing his sister's husband hoisting her child his own flesh and blood, onto his shoulders. The bomb in the study is not a surgical tool. It is a weapon of mass annihilation for this tiny, fragile universe. He makes a decision. Not as an agent of the Black Cat, but as a brother, an uncle. He aborts the mission. He uses the emergency signal, a specific pattern of flashes from his cigarette lighter, to warn Lev to stand down, to retrieve the device, to get out. Inti, Prague safe house. Night. The aftermath is a silent explosion. Lev returns, pale and shaking, the unused bomb in his bag. He understands what Ivan has done. So does Sofia. The air in the room crackles with accusations unspoken. They have failed a direct order. They have compromised a months-long operation. They have left a high-value target alive and now acutely aware of a threat, thanks to Ivan's contact with his sister. But the greater failure is one of ideology. In a moment of crisis, blood proved thicker than doctrine, humanity stronger than ideology. Ivan chose family over the cause. In the eyes of Moscow, and in the harsh calculus of their survival, this is the ultimate, unforgivable sin. Worse, they now have nothing to show Major Fogler or Oberstleutnant von Helldorf. Their credibility, their protective shield, is crumbling. And as they sit in the oppressive silence of the safe house, each of them knows that the noose they have been evading has just been pulled much, much tighter. The most dangerous threat is no longer the Gestapo or the Abwehr. It is the consequence of Ivan's choice, a choice that has fractured their unity and may have just signed all of their death warrants. The ghosts have remembered they had hearts, and it may be the thing that finally destroys them. Int. Prague safe house. Night. Winter. 1942. The silence in the apartment is a living, suffocating entity. It has been days since the aborted operation. No contact from Moscow Center, no acknowledgement, no reprimand. Just a void more terrifying than any reprisal. The radio, their lifeline, sits silent and cold. The air is thick with the smell of stale coffee, cold sweat, and unspoken betrayal. Ivan Volkov stares out the window at the Prague rooftops dusted with a light, grimy snow. His face is a granite mask, but his eyes are windows to a churning storm of guilt and defiance. He did not just disobey an order. He fractured the fundamental unspoken rule of their existence. The mission is everything. The individual is nothing. By saving his sister's family, he has put Sofia and Lev in mortal danger. The weight of this is a physical pressure on his chest. Sofia moves through the rooms like a specter, her usual sharpness blunted by a weary dread. She understands Ivan's choice on a visceral, maternal level, but this understanding is a luxury they cannot afford. It is a crack in their foundation. Lev is the most visibly shattered. He is consumed by a corrosive cocktail of relief that he didn't have to plant the bomb, shame for his paralysis in the study, and a growing cold fury at Ivan. To Lev, the cause is his only path to redemption for his past sins against his own father. Ivan's sentimental decision feels like a personal betrayal, a desecration of the sacrifice they are all supposed to be willing to make. EXT. Prague Street. Day. The first sign of the noose tightening is not a squad of Gestapo, but a subtle, chilling shift in their environment. During a routine reconnaissance, Ivan notices a man reading a newspaper on a bench across from their building. The same man was there the day before. The newspaper is the same edition. A static surveillance post. Later, Sofia reports that her usual contact at the post office, a sympathetic Czech woman, was replaced by a stiff, unfamiliar clerk who examined her false identity papers with excessive care before handing them back without a word. The ecosystem of their secrecy is being poisoned. They are being herded, isolated. The center's silence is not neglect. It is a deliberate severing of the umbilical cord. They are being left to twist in the wind, to see if the trap closing around them is German, or if their own side will strike first. Inti. Prague Safe House. Night. The blow falls not from the sky, but through the static of their resurrected radio. A signal, finally. Not from Moscow, but from their control in Berlin, Oberstleutnant von Helldorf. The message is a masterpiece of encoded desperation. The Gestapo's Major Vogler has made a breakthrough. He has not identified them, but he has isolated a pattern of intelligence leaks converging on Prague in recent weeks. He is days, perhaps hours, from cross-referencing known arrivals and tightening the circle. Von Helldorf's protective shadow is evaporating under Vogler's focused, cold light. The message contains an escape plan, a train, a route through Switzerland, new papers waiting at a border checkpoint. But there is a catch, a condition so brutal it steals the air from the room. The plan is designed for 2 people, not 3. The logistics are too tight, the scrutiny too high. A trio of fleeing aristocrats is a pattern, a story. A couple is a tragedy, a romance. One of them must stay behind. One of them must become the sacrifice, the focal point, to absorb Vogler's investigation. To die in a way that confirms German suspicions and allows the other 2 to vanish. The decision hangs in the air, a guillotine blade waiting to drop. They all know who it must be. Lev is the most technically skilled, but his nerves are shot, his psychological state a liability. Sofya's unique social access is irreplaceable. Ivan is the leader, the strategist, but he is also now the compromised element, the one who failed. He is the logical sacrifice. But Ivan does not offer himself. He looks at Lev. The young man has been a raw nerve of idealism and guilt, the most fervent believer in their bloody work. And Ivan, in that moment, makes a calculation as cold as any Makarov or Vogler could make. Lev's faith is his weakness. His need for atonement makes him the perfect candidate for a final, redemptive act. It is not a suggestion. It is a presentation of a grim, mathematical truth. The conversation that follows is not an argument. It is a surgical procedure. Ivan and Sofya, with a horrifying, gentle clarity, explain it to Lev. He is the youngest, his legend the thinnest. His capture or death would be believable. They walk him through it. He must go to a specific calf, at a specific time, carrying a specific doctored briefcase filled with meaningless but incriminating-looking documents. He must act nervous, draw attention. He must allow himself to be taken. If he is captured, he must hold out for 48 hours under interrogation, long enough for the escape trail to go cold. Then use a cyanide capsule they will provide. His death will be a hero's death for the cause. It will save the network. It will give meaning to his father's memory and his own torment. Lev listens, his face pale. He looks from Ivan's implacable, regretful resolve to Sofya's grim, silent confirmation. He sees the terrible logic of it. This is the ultimate test of his belief, the final, bloody sacrament. His fear is immense, a physical tremor in his hands. But beneath it, a terrifying acceptance blooms. This is the clean, unambiguous sacrifice he has been seeking. Atonement, crystallized into a single, definitive act. EXT, CAF, Savoy. Day. The day is bright, brittle, and cold. Lev, in his best suit, looks like a young clerk in over his head. The briefcase feels like a lead weight. He sits at a predetermined table by the window, a perfect silhouette. He orders a coffee he does not drink. His hands shake. He does not try to hide it. He is performing his own demise. Across the street, from the shadows of a doorway, Ivan and Sofia watch. This is the worst part. The active witnessing. They see the gray sedan pull up silently. They see two plainclothes Gestapo men get out, their movements efficient and calm. They see the moment Lev spots them, the brief, stark terror on his face that is not an act, followed by a sudden, profound calm. A surrender. He makes no attempt to run. He stands up as they approach, as if expecting them. One man takes the briefcase. The other grips Lev's arm, not roughly, but with finality. They lead him to the car. He does not look back. The door closes. The car drives away, swallowed by the Prague traffic. It is done. The sacrifice is made. The pawn is removed from the board. Int. Prague safe house. Empty night. Ivan and Sofia return to the apartment to collect the bare essentials for their flight. The space, once tense with life and conflict, is now a hollow shell. Lev's few belongings, a spare shirt, a book of engineering diagrams, a photograph of his father, lie abandoned on a chair. The silence is deafening, accusing. Sofia packs methodically, her movements robotic. She does not look at Ivan. The bond between them, forged in the dacha and tempered in the salons of Europe, has been irreparably damaged. They are no longer a team. They are two survivors bound by a shared, unforgivable sin. They have not just sacrificed Lev, they have sacrificed their own humanity. They have become the exact, ruthless instruments they were trained to be. Ivan stands in the center of the room, staring at the space where Lev sat. He feels no triumph, no relief, only a vast, hollow cold. He orchestrated the death of a young man who trusted him, who believed in him. He used Lev's idealism as a tool, just as Makarov used his own aristocratic past. The circle is complete. The ghost has fully possessed him. He is no longer Prince Ivan Volkov or Baron von Reichenbach. He is the black cat, a creature of pure survivalist instinct, capable of any calculation, any betrayal, to stay in the shadows. They leave the safe house separately, two shadows fleeing the city. They carry new names, new papers, and the heavy, permanent ghost of Lev Karlov between them. Their escape route is clear. Their mission technically continues. But something fundamental has broken. The cost of survival has been etched into their souls in blood, and the ledger can never be balanced. The war has just claimed its deepest victory over them yet, not from the outside, but from within. EXT. Swiss Alps, train, day, spring, 1943. The escape from Prague was a journey through layers of nightmare. False papers, bribed guards, a tense border crossing under the cover of a snowstorm where every German voice was a potential death sentence. Now the train snakes through the pristine, neutral majesty of the Swiss Alps. The sun glares off perfect white peaks and deep, still lakes. The cleanliness, the order, the sheer lack of fear among the passengers is almost offensive to Ivan and Sofia. They sit in a first-class compartment, dressed again as wealthy, weary neutrals, but the luxury feels like a sarcophagus. The view outside is a postcard from a world that no longer exists for them. Their reflections in the window are those of strangers, hollow-eyed, aged by a grief that is not just personal, but existential. The ghost of Lev Karlov is their only companion, a silent, accusatory presence in the plush seat between them. They do not speak of him, they do not speak at all. The understanding is absolute. They are bound together not by trust, but by shared guilt, a crime that has fused them in a terrible, silent symbiosis. Int. Lausanne. Hotel suite. Day. Their sanctuary is a grand suite in a hotel overlooking Lake Geneva. It is a gilded cage provided by Moscow Center through cutouts and laundered funds. The message waiting for them is not a welcome. It is a blade wrapped in silk. Center acknowledges their narrow escape and regrettable loss. The phrasing is icy, deliberate. Lev is not mourned. He is categorized. The praise for their continued survival is faint, laced with an unmistakable subtext. Their failure in Prague and the resultant compromise have been noted. Their reliability is now in question. They are to remain in Switzerland, in reserve, while new networks are activated. They are being benched, frozen in this beautiful, neutral purgatory. Worse, their only secure link to the outside is a single, complex procedure for contacting a cutout in Bern, a man they have never met. They are isolated, stripped of purpose, left to stew in the consequences of their actions. The silence from Berlin is equally deafening. No word from von Helldorf. Has he been compromised, arrested, or has he too severed the connection, seeing them as a burned, toxic asset? Hasty Lake Geneva, promenade, twilight. It is here, amidst the strolling couples and the serene lapping of water against the shore, that the past catches up to them. He simply appears, as if materializing from the twilight itself. Major Konrad Vogler. He is not in uniform. He wears an expensive overcoat, a felt hat, and an expression of calm, almost pleasant surprise. There are no guards, no show of force. He is alone. The encounter is so casual, so terrifyingly normal, it feels like a hallucination. He does not arrest them. He joins them on their walk, as if resuming an interrupted conversation from a Berlin soirée. He speaks of the view, of the peace, and then, with the gentle precision of a surgeon, he dismantles their world. He knows everything, not the specifics of their missions, but the shape of their lie. He speaks of Baron von Reichenbach's curiously sparse background, of the convenient death of a young engineer in Prague that neatly capped an investigation. He does not accuse them of being Soviet spies. He posits a more elegant, and to him, more believable truth, that they are mercenaries. Cynical aristocrats playing all sides, selling secrets to the highest bidder. Their allegiance to nothing but their own survival and comfort. He admires it, in a way. He calls it a pragmatic, ancient way of navigating the crude, modern world of ideologies. Then he makes his offer. It is not a threat. It is an invitation to a grander, safer game. The Reich, he suggests, will not win this war. The tide has turned at Stalingrad. The logic is undeniable to a man who deals in facts. The future, he believes, belongs not to Hitler's fanatics, but to the professionals, the realists within the apparatus, men like himself, who are already making arrangements for the aftermath. He needs allies with connections, with languages, with impeccable non-ideological backgrounds. He offers them not just immunity, but a partnership, a place in the new clandestine order that will rise from the ashes of the Reich. All they must do is perform one final service, help him identify and neutralize the remaining Soviet networks in Western Europe. They would be playing their same game, but for the winning side of the future. It is the most dangerous proposition they have ever faced. It is a mirror that reflects their deepest, most hidden selves back at them. The cynical survivalist Vogler has described is not entirely a fiction. It is the creature they have become in the wake of Lev's sacrifice. The offer is seductive, because it is an absolution. It is permission to stop being ghosts, fighting for a cause that despises them, and to become powerful, wealthy phantoms in a new, real world. In T. Hotel suite. Night. Back in the suite, the facade crumbles. For the first time since the Dacha, a raw, unfiltered confrontation erupts. The pressure of Fogler's offer, layered atop the trauma of Prague and Lev's death, is too much. Sofya's icy control shatters. She rails at Ivan, not just for Prague, but for everything, for dragging her into this, for making her complicit in the murder of a boy, for leaving her daughter an orphan in all but name. She confesses the dark temptation of Fogler's words. What are they fighting for? A system that will discard or execute them the moment they are no longer useful? For the memory of a Russia that hated them? Ivan's own anger, long suppressed, boils over. He defends his choice in Prague not with sentiment, but with a stark, new philosophy. If they become the monsters the Center and the Gestapo believe them to be, then they have already lost. Lev's death must mean something beyond tactical utility. They must retain some shred of the thing they were supposedly fighting for, a shred of humanity, even if it is just for each other. But his words ring hollow even to his own ears. He, too, felt the pull of Fogler's cold logic. The argument ends not in resolution, but in a drained, hopeless silence. They are trapped in a triple bind. Their own center distrusts them. The Gestapo is offering them a treacherous lifeline, and they no longer trust each other or even themselves. Int. Hotel bathroom. Night alone, Ivan enacts the most treasonous ritual of his life. Using a sophisticated cipher method, known only to him and his control in Moscow, he prepares a message. But it is not the truth. It is a lie woven from strands of Fogler's fiction and his own desperate cunning. He reports to Center that they have made contact with a high-level defector within the SS, Fogler, who is willing to trade information for future protection. He outlines Fogler's offer, but frames it as a deceptive ploy by the Gestapo to uncover their identities. He requests instructions, playing the loyal, beleaguered agent. He is, in effect, running a double game against both sides, feeding each a version of the truth tailored to his own survival. He has become the perfect, self-interested actor Fogler imagines him to be. As he burns the encoding materials, watching the ashes swirl in the toilet bowl, he understands the final transformation. There is no Ivan Volkov left. There is no Baron von Reichenbach. There is only the game. An infinite Hall of Mirrors game where every truth is a lie, every loyalty a feint, and the only objective is to keep playing, to stay alive in the narrow, treacherous space between the crushing forces of two monstrous empires. He has entered a wilderness of mirrors from which there may be no exit. The Black Cat is no longer a weapon of the USSR. It is a rogue entity, playing its own game for the ultimate prize, a tomorrow. XT. Paris Streets. Day. August 1944. Paris is a city holding its breath, a pressure cooker nearing its bursting point. The distant, heavy thunder of Allied artillery is no longer a rumor, but a constant rolling promise to the east. The German occupation, once an immovable fact, now has the frantic, brittle energy of a cornered beast. Wehrmacht trucks roar through streets being hastily barricaded with overturned carts and furniture. The swastika flags hang limp in the summer air, looking suddenly like what they are, pieces of cloth. The faces of the few remaining collaborators are etched with a new, raw fear. And in the eyes of the Parisians, a long-suppressed fire is rekindling. A dangerous, hopeful, defiant gleam. The city is a powder keg, and the fuse is burning visibly. Into this volatile landscape return the ghosts. Ivan and Sofia are inserted back into Paris not as saviors, but as instruments of a final, brutal calculus. Their orders from Moscow Center, received after weeks of suspicious silence following Ivan's duplicitous message from Switzerland, are chillingly specific. They are to locate and neutralize Operation Donnerkeil, Thunderbolt. Not a person, but a plan. A comprehensive, scorched earth blueprint to destroy Paris. Key bridges, power stations, the telephone exchange, the water mains, even the historical treasures of the Louvre and Notre Dame, all are wired with high explosives, set to detonate upon a single coded radio signal from a fleeing German command bunker. The mission is not to save art, but to deny the Reich a symbolic victory of nihilistic destruction. The means are left to them. The implication is clear. This is their chance for redemption, or their final grave. In T. Abandoned German administration office. Night. They operate from a new kind of safe house, a ransacked office in a building the Germans have abandoned in their retreat to more defensible positions. The room is a chaos of shredded paper, overturned furniture, and the sour smell of departed panic. Maps of the city are spread on the floor, marked with probable demolition targets. The atmosphere between Ivan and Sofia is different now. The Swiss confrontation has been buried under a layer of grim, professional necessity. They are a machine again, but one where every gear grinds with the grit of shared, unspoken trauma. They communicate in clipped phrases, their movements synchronized, but devoid of warmth. The shadow of Lev is a permanent chill in the room. Their information comes not from Moscow, but from the dying gasps of their old network and from the brave, reckless whispers of the French resistance, who are now emerging from the shadows, sensing the imminent change. Through these fractured channels, they pinpoint the heart of Donnerkeil, a fortified communications bunker beneath the Gare de l'Est railway station, guarded by a fanatical SS detachment with orders to send the destruct signal the moment Allied troops breach the city limits. EXT. Rooftops of Paris. Night. The plan is audacious to the point of suicide. They cannot assault the bunker. They must infiltrate it. Sofia will use her last, most potent legend, that of a fleeing Baltic noblewoman, terrified of the advancing Bolshevik hordes, seeking the protection of the SS to evacuate on the last train east. It is a role that curdles her soul, requiring her to embody the very collaboration they have fought against. Her distraction must be perfect, long enough for Ivan, using blueprints stolen by Lev in another lifetime and routes mapped from their earlier Parisian existence, to navigate the maintenance tunnels beneath the station and reach the bunker's secondary ventilation intake. The night before the attempt, they prepare in silence on a rooftop overlooking the sleeping, anxious city. They check weapons, not the elegant Walthers of their legends, but brutish, reliable Sten guns supplied by the resistance. They blacken their faces with grease. They are no longer aristocrats or phantom courtiers. They are soldiers, saboteurs, in the grimmest, most literal sense. For a moment they look at each other, and in that look passes a lifetime of wasted elegance, of sacrificed humanity, of love twisted into something too painful to name. It is a farewell. Int. Gare de l'Est, underground tunnels. Day. The following day is chaos incarnate. The first sounds of gunfire from the French resistance echo through the streets. German patrols are skittish, firing at shadows. The city is beginning to rise. Sofia's performance at the station entrance is a masterpiece of terrified grandeur. She buys Ivan precious minutes, her pleas creating a scene that draws the guard's attention. Below, in the dripping, pitch-black labyrinth of tunnels, Ivan moves like a rat, guided by memory and desperation. The stench of oil, ozone, and fear is overwhelming. He can hear the shouts from above, the occasional burst of automatic fire, the rumble of a train that will never depart. He finally finds the grated vent, its fan still humming. The wires for the demolition signal will be inside. As he begins to cut through the grate, he is not alone. A figure emerges from the darkness. Not a German soldier, but a man in a long leather coat. Major Conrad Vogler. He is not surprised. He looks tired, elegant even in defeat, a pistol held loosely at his side. He tells Ivan he knew they would come here, that it was the only logical move. He is not there to stop him. He is there to witness and to offer one last, stark choice. The world after this war will have no place for men like them, he says. The righteous victors will hang the Nazis and forget the ghosts who fought in the shadows. He has a plane at a private airfield. One seat, a path to Argentina, to oblivion. He offers it to Ivan, not to Sofia, just him, a final pure act of cynical survival. Ivan looks at Vogler, this mirror of his own potential future. He sees the emptiness, the absolute negation of everything. He thinks of Lev in the Prague Caf, of Sofia on the rooftop, of the Russia he can never reclaim. He says nothing. He raises his Sten gun. Vogler smiles, a sad, understanding smile, and raises his own pistol. There is no dramatic standoff. 2 shots crack in the confined space. Vogler staggers back, a dark flower blooming on his chest, his expression one of almost academic surprise before he collapses. Ivan slumps against the wall, a searing pain in his side. He is hit, but alive. With the last of his strength, he pulls himself through the vent into the bunker's electronics room. A lone SS technician reaches for a switch. Ivan fires a burst from the hip. The man falls. Ivan finds the master control box for the demolition network. He doesn't know the diffuse codes. So he uses the butt of his gun, smashing the circuitry again and again in a fury of sparks and shattering plastic, until the unit is a dead, smoking husk. EXT. Paris Street. Later that day, Ivan staggers out of the station into blinding sunlight and bedlam. The streets are now filled with cheering Parisians, weeping with joy, embracing FFI fighters, and the first few advance scouts of the Free French Army. Bells are beginning to ring across the city. The air is thick with the smell of gunpowder, wine, and liberation. He finds Sofia on a prearranged corner. She is alive, her dress torn, a cut on her forehead, her eyes wide with the shock of survival. They stand amid the ecstatic, streaming crowds, 2 islands of absolute stillness in a sea of celebration. They have done it. They have saved the city. They have completed their mission, and they are utterly, completely lost. No one cheers for them. No one knows their names. They look at the laughing, crying faces, at the tricolor flags unfurling from windows, at the future being born in real time around them. They feel nothing but a vast, hollow exhaustion. They have won a battle in a war that has consumed their past, their present, and now, clearly, their future. A French resistance fighter bumps into Ivan, claps him on the shoulder with a joyous shout, and moves on, not seeing the blood soaking through Ivan's coat, not seeing the dead centuries in his eyes. Ivan and Sofia look at each other. No words are needed. The silent understanding is complete. There is no home for them in this new world. Moscow will either reclaim them for another mission or erase them as inconvenient witnesses. The West will see only their false collaborationist legends. As the crowd surges around them, they make a decision. Not as soldiers, not as agents, but as the last two survivors of a sunken continent. Ivan takes her hand. It is not a romantic gesture, it is an anchor in the human storm. And together, without a backward glance, they turn and walk, not towards the cheering crowds and the cameras, but into a narrow, shadowed side street, away from the light, away from the history being written. They melt into the labyrinth of Paris, two ghosts finally choosing their own oblivion, leaving behind only the echo of their deeds and the unmarked grave of everything they once were. The black cat disappears, not with a bang, but with the silent, final closing of a door into the dark.